All right. So Valve changes its revenue split with large titles. Did you hear about this, Raven?
I did. Um, I mean, I think it's great, but I don't know. In 2018, I think taking 30%, while, I'm sure they love that 30%, it just seems kind of eh. It doesn't really benefit the smaller guys, but it might help keep the big guys.
Yeah. The issue is Epic Store is now taking 12% or something like that.
Yes.
I feel like there might have been a little bit of foreknowledge on Valve's part about this, but they didn't know what the revenue share would be on the store. They just knew that the store was coming, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe they changed this up to kind of keep larger titles around.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing of it is, I don't really like. I like buying stuff on Steam because I already have stuff on Steam. My Steam library is just really big, and it
Right.
it actually works well on Linux. I mean, Epic Games Store launched last night. I don't know if you saw that or not. I actually did launch last
I
night.
did.
It has 4 games on it. With more coming, like they're just going to systematically roll it out. In fact, Supergiant Games, their new game is launched on the Epic Store.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, damn, son, I really want to play that.
It's like bring it to Steam because I know you have a Linux version
Yeah.
and I want to play it.
The fact that Supergiant's on there gives me hope that Epic's going to release the storefront on Linux. The reason that I also think that they're going to do that because they mentioned that they're going to bring the storefront throughout 2019 to open platforms and only specified Android. But I think there isn't any other open platforms for PC other than Linux. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, I have that Windows Dev machine laying around.
Yeah.
So naturally, when the store, uh, launched last night, I got up and I walked out and I went into that room and I turned it on and waited like 5 minutes for it to boot. I mean, it really didn't take 5 minutes; it took like 30 seconds, but it still took way too long.
Yeah.
And I installed it and launched it, and it's basically the old Epic launcher. Really, that's what it is for the most part.
Yeah, I've never used the Epic Launcher. I mean, I haven't had
I mean, it
any.
works fine. Don't get me wrong. The Epic Launcher works just fine. I mean, it could patch and everything else. Well, it couldn't patch Unreal Engine, but it could patch like Fortnite, for example. So,
Oh, yeah.
so it's like I think it's a nice move, honestly. Because if you've ever used the Epic Launcher, it was starting to get cluttered with like mods and other games and other just crap, and it was like, dude, this is just for Unreal Engine. All that other stuff needs to be somewhere else. So I think that this was like this was gonna happen. You know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
sooner or later it was going to happen. And then did you see the article over at I think it was Game Industry? GameIndustry.biz. I think that's what it is. They interviewed Tim Sweeney
No,
about
I
the
didn't
store.
see that.
Okay, well, the very first paragraph where he talks about why it's 12%, and basically the reason it's 12% is what they've learned from running Fortnite, which is currently like the most popular game on the planet at the moment.
Yeah,
I mean, it has like what I think they said like what 8 or 9 million people or something playing it across all platforms at one time. I mean,
that's
that's
crazy.
that's absurd. So anyway, his reasoning for it was like 2.5% of the 12% covers like your payment processor and all that other stuff, and like an additional 1.5% covers the CDN.
Okay.
And he based that 1.5% based off of if you patch the way we patch Fortnite. Most people don't patch the way they patch Fortnite because I think it's updates all the time.
Yeah.
So I guess basically what he was trying to say is it's really really cheap, and the leftover money we're gonna have is perfectly fine. Like
So it's like
we can live off that,
8%.
something like that. Yeah, and it's even less because if you use Unreal Engine, you don't have to pay them the 5%.
Right.
Because it's basically I'm not gonna say free money, so to speak, but once it gets big enough, like for Valve, for example, like they've been doing it for so long and they already have a service and a team. It's essentially like almost free money at this point.
Distributing, or what do you mean?
Like just the just distributing games, just selling them. The storefront is
Yeah.
basically like it's done, it's paid for. They still have to pay their CDN fees and their payment processing fees, but Valve's the biggest store in the world.
Right.
Well, for games anyway. Well, I guess one could argue that maybe the Google Play Store, the iOS store, is bigger because most of those games are actually really small by comparison.
Yeah.
But even so, let's just say it's the third biggest store. It has a lot of clout. So they get good deals with the payment processors, and they get a good deal with the Kami, which is their CDN network. So how much of that remaining, they might lose like what 4% ish at like the highest, and the rest of it's all profit. I mean, it's huge. Like he said, Valve. He even mentioned Valve. Well, if I remember correctly, I don't think he mentioned Valve specifically. He just said the other store, which I mean, there is no other store. I mean, there's Uplay, except who goes to Uplay and buys a game? I mean, it's because almost all Ubisoft titles are on Steam.
Right. But
as far as I know, they're all on Steam.
So this is the issue that I have with the Epic Store is like any developer who hasn't done it is gonna start doing their own thing now too. Like any big developer who has like the money, like I fully suspect that Ubisoft is gonna pull their games from Steam and only do Uplay from now on. And the same thing with that's what Electronic Arts did with Origin. And it's what all these other games are going to do too. All these other publishers. Activision. I bet you Activision's going to leave too.
Activision's already left.
Have they? See, I don't follow Windows PC gaming, so I don't know.
Well, it's because of Call of Duty. The new Call of Duty's on the Blizzard store, the Battle.net store.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, they have other titles, but honestly, the biggest, most iconic thing from Activision, at least in 2018, is Call of Duty. And I don't think it was as well received as they thought. I think sales were a little less than spectacular. I mean, you saw the Jim Sterling video anyway, where all publishers put abnormally high expectations for everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I firmly believe that, I do feel that certain titles are going to, leave the Steam store, but they might not. I mean, Steam's still a really big market. You can't just say, well, I'll go run my own store and everybody will come over. I mean, Bethesda did that for Fallout 76.
Yeah.
And the next title of Doom is only going to come out on the Bethesda launcher.
Which is disappointing as hell.
Yeah, that's very disappointing because it runs on Vulkan. So it's but that game would have worked.
That's the one game that I'm the one AAA game that I'm looking forward to on PC. And I'm just not even going to play it because fuck.
Well, you won't be able to because the Bethesda launcher doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
I really don't like Bethesda. They're the worst. Their games suck.
Yeah. Wow, you're going to catch so much hate for that one. But, as far as the Epic Store, I think it's a good... I like the announcement of it. I love competition. I'm a huge fan of competition. Because, honestly, Valve's gotten kind of complacent, And honestly, I feel that Valve should just say, you know what, we're just going to make another change to our revenue split. It's now 90-10 for everyone.
Yeah. Well, see,
that would be more than enough money because Valve's a privately owned company owned by Gabe Newell, and he's already got all this money anyway, and he doesn't really seem like he cares about having a whole lot of money because honestly, if he cared about having a whole lot of money, he made Half-Life 3 already.
I don't know. I think the fact that that Valve changed how their distribution agreement works now is a good thing, because it shows that they're willing to adapt, they're willing to change, especially in the face of Epic releasing, what I would consider the only valid competitor to Steam that we've ever seen. The idea that you have to earn $10 million in order to save 5% on earnings, on revenue from your game is kind of crazy to me and insulting to indie devs who will never see $10 million, and it's and I heard a lot of indie devs complaining about that. It's I honestly, I don't think Valve saw it coming that Epic would so significantly undercut their revenue split. Even if you make $50 million, Epic is still undercutting the split by 8%. And it's if you're going to sell a game and you're going to sell a big AAA title, then why would you go to Steam? It doesn't make any sense anymore. And
Because they're living off their user base. That's what it is. That's the only thing Steam has is its monstrous user base. Because the Epic still has a problem. Yeah, the 12% will court developers, but there actually has to be people there that are using it.
Fortnite is the biggest game in the world, and you have to use the Epic launcher.
I do know that. I do know that, but Fortnite's also free. Like you can actually get everything in Fortnite without paying a penny. I mean, you're gonna grind, and you know you're gonna pay for it with your time, but you don't actually have to spend a single penny to get everything in Fortnite.
Right. But the reason that that's significant is because everybody already has the Epic Store installed on their computer. Anyone who plays
That is
Fortnite.
true. That is true. I'm hoping that this brings Fortnite to Linux, honestly. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, I honestly think that that's going to happen because, you know, Unreal Engine 4 is available cross-platform, and, you know, I think that, like, it'll be a huge deal if they bring the platform, the Epic Store to Linux, and they don't bring Fortnite. Like, that would just kind of be mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like, I foresee Fortnite coming. It might not come straight away. Like, the store might come before the game. But I do see Fortnite coming to Linux.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they don't really have a whole lot of excuses anymore, except they just don't want to do it. They can't blame their cheat service anymore because they own their cheat service. They bought it.
Oh, nice.
They bought them a while back. Or a couple months ago, rather, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think Valve should just go with the 90-10 split. Valve makes tons of money anyway. And, you know, people love to say, well, you know, I've heard some people say that, like, they don't think Valve could survive if they lost the model. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Valve could do 90-10 and they'd still make billions.
They'd make a lot of money, but they'd also have to make a lot of adjustments to how their business works. I mean, to take a 20% drop in income, I mean...
Yeah, but remember, they're just overcharging massively. Like, they would still make a profit. But they're a privately traded company. They don't answer to shareholders. They can do whatever they want.
No, I understand
They answer
that.
to Gabe Newell. Well, that's the problem with most corporations is you have to answer to shareholders. That's why you always have to make an absurd amount of money. Like, there really isn't going to be an adjustment, you know, because remember, Valve also makes a absolute crap ton of money from all their games, even though they really haven't made a game in like 5 or 6 years. They still make a lot of money from it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know. See, you got that joke, didn't you? Because
Yeah.
Artifact is not a game.
No. Right.
So they make Valve probably makes enough money that if Steam aside, like their games fund the studio and all their adventures and you know everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that like would they lose money probably, and would it maybe be an adjustment? Maybe. I mean, they would have less floating cash, but I mean, Valve at this point should actually have tons of money just laying around. I mean, they don't buy anything. It's not like they overexpand. I mean, honestly, Valve is like one of those companies that just like it's fine with what it is and just keeps hoarding cash.
But Valve is buying companies though. Like they just bought Campo Santo, and you know they're like integrating like other indie devs into their team, and it's
yeah,
I don't know.
No, you're right. They are buying stuff, but they're not doing like a Microsoft where like they buy LinkedIn for like $26 billion. It's like way overvalued. Like
Right.
Valve is actually smart. They pay like what did they pay for that Campo Santo or whatever?
I don't think they disclosed what they paid.
Yeah, I don't think they paid that much. Honestly,
it might be like
really
what they did with like Turtle Rock when they brought them in to do. They basically just integrated them into their team without like buying the actual company.
Oh no, they own the company.
Do they own the company? All right.
According to the owners, whatever, they do own the company. But what I'm saying is like they didn't go out and say, "Hey, we'll give you $500 million to your company." They probably just gave them, a few million, and because
Right.
honestly, in my opinion, they're not worth more than like 10 million. Like I would not pay more than 10 million for their studio.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't.
Because their game's not a big seller. It's like, what are you buying?
Well, they're buying the future IP too, and the talent.
Yeah, I don't think the talent's worth more than 10 million though.
I thought that Firewatch was like one of the best games of the year that year. And this is coming from a guy who hates stories in video games. I thought it was good.
Oh, here's another thing for everyone listening. The Epic Store is bringing Journey to PC.
Yeah, I
which
saw
is
that.
insanely significant because that's been a PS3 exclusive for super long. And you know what? If Epic starts bringing PlayStation exclusives to PC, hey, I don't know what I can say to that except that's fantastic.
That would be really cool. What was that other game that company made?
They made something else after Journey,
They
and it
did
was weird.
Flower. I think they did
Yeah,
Flower,
they
and
did
they did a
Flower.
couple
They did
other.
Flower before Journey.
Oh, that's right.
Flower was also weird.
I liked it. Didn't they do Flow as well? It was like
That's
Flow
what it
and then
was. It was
Flower
Flow.
and then Journey, and then there was that other one that I played where she's like dancing, like the main character is dancing when you move around and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. The name of the company is That Game Company. I can never remember their name because I'm
Right.
always like their name is so ridiculous. Like it's actually ridiculous in That Game Company. So they made Flow, then they made Flower, then they made Journey, and then now they're making Sky. I mean, how amazing is it that they haven't made a game in 6 years because they've been living off Journey?
Yeah, it's crazy.
But it sold like crazy though.
Yeah. I mean, like the thing is, I really love what I've played of their stuff. I haven't played Journey, but I have played Flower and Flow, and I love both of them. Do you remember? Do you remember where Flow actually started, dude? I like back in 2006. It was a Flash game, and I found it
Yes,
online.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. It was, wasn't
it
it?
was so impressive, and I was like super duper into it. And then I was like, oh, it's coming to PlayStation 3. And at the time, the PS3 had just come out, and I was like, oh, this is so much fun because my cousin had a PS3 and we played it all the time. But
I ended up getting Flow. I'm hoping that it's not going to be the Flash version repackaged because that would really suck.
yeah,
I would imagine it would be the PS3 version because it has more stuff. It's content.
right,
I don't think the Flash version had as much content, but I could be wrong. I haven't, I mean, it's been 12 years.
yeah. You know, I was like looking over their page last night of their storefront, and down on the bottom right, Unreal Tournament is actually there, and I got really excited when I saw that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Uh,
They really do need to bring Unreal Tournament because the thing is, Unreal Tournament. Oh, it's already on the store. Nice. Yeah,
yeah,
because I was gonna say Unreal Tournament's an open source game,
yeah,
and it's. I mean, I don't know if it'll ever come to. Well, actually, it is on Linux. But see, that's the other thing. Like Unreal Tournament Engine. Unreal Tournament Engine. Yes, that's exactly what I was going for. No, Unreal Tournament has this problem where like you can't distribute the game. Only Epic can do that.
right,
So like you basically have to build it yourself or download these monstrous zip files off their forums to play the
yeah.
Linux version. And I mean, that's fine, I guess, to an extent, but it's like that is so stupid.
See, the problem is though that isn't open source. Like if you don't have the ability to redistribute it,
Well, I didn't say it was free. I just said it was open source.
well,
As in you can get the code, you can see the code, and you can download it.
the
Yeah,
the
it's still under
source,
restrictive licenses
it's
and all.
source available. Um if the project has its own license that isn't validated by the open source initiative, then it's not an open source license.
Oh, I don't believe that.
Oh, I
Did we
do.
have this discussion about the open source initiative? Because didn't they put out a press release about a certain license not being open source because they didn't approve it, but the license was actually completely open. Like you could like literally repackage it and sell it or whatever you wanted.
I
There
feel
was
like
a
we
thing
had
about
a
that a while
conversation
ago.
about this. But I don't like I
Yes,
don't know if it was on the podcast. But the
it was on the podcast.
the thing is, I actually like the open source initiative's definition of open source software. It includes the four freedoms, and it has a few others that
Oh
are
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
important.
not saying that. I'm just saying that like I don't really like to like I'm not going to acknowledge them as the gatekeepers essentially. If any license, regardless of whether or not it's approved or not, allows for, basically you doing anything with the source code, then it's an open source license. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that they don't allow you to redistribute it, so it's not open source, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's just weird. Like everyone's been complaining about that because they don't want to do it, but the community does. It's just been a weird thing. So I'm hoping the Epic Store, when it finally does come to Linux, because I have a feeling it's coming to Linux. because people have already tweeted at Tim Sweeney about it coming to Linux. And, you know, this also could be Tim Sweeney's reaction to Microsoft being a bunch of dicks here lately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there hasn't been anyone aside from Gabe Newell more critical of Windows in the gaming world. You know, Tim Sweeney is like, I mean, I have cited his comments multiple times on the Linux Gamer. Like, he's very, very critical of Microsoft, of Windows 10 and how they're closing down their storefront, and I mean, or how they're closing down their operating system. And it's like, you know, he's definitely. I mean, I can't see him not bringing the Epic storefront to Linux. I really can't.
Yeah, I think he will. It's just weird he hasn't done it. You know, every single time he tweets now, he just gets a horde of Linux people going, "Stop your complaining."
The thing is,
because he hasn't done anything.
If you're one of the people, if you're one of the people who's tweeting at him, just stop. Just really stop. Don't. I hate that kind of online. That's harassment. Just leave him alone. You know, that kind of harassment is what makes people not want to bring stuff to Linux. So
well, they're
just
not
calm
harassing
down,
him.
Dude. Well, if everybody's like, hey, by the way, this has nothing to do with what you just tweeted, but bring the Epic storefront to Linux, then you're just being an annoying.
No, it's when he tweets about how awful Windows is, but then won't leave Windows. I mean, you should call someone out on that shit, because it's like, dude, come on. It's like, you can't sit there and say Windows is like the most horrible thing ever, and they're stripping our freedoms, but I'm gonna stay with it. It's like, dude, really?
But
it's like, come on.
I mean, even then, that is still just like calling people out on the internet is like Rick telling Morty he's an idiot. It doesn't make any sense. Just stop.
I love that show.
I love Jerry because Jerry has the right outlook on life.
What? Not go to work and live off your wife?
No, to be accepting of his position and to not worry about things.
Have you seen season 3?
Yeah, I have. But see,
really
I have a hypothesis about the whole show, and that is Rick is aware he's in a TV show, and he's created a device that lets him manipulate what the viewers actually see. And he paints Jerry in the most pathetic light he can because Rick is jealous that Jerry is the only happy person that Rick knows. That's possible. My hypothesis.
It's very possible.
Anyway, we're way off topic now.
Well, you gotta keep the show up to its name, you know?
Yeah, dude. I really like how that conversation went. But yeah, what do you guys think? How do you feel about Valve's announcement of their change in revenue split? Do you think they're going to have to make another concession to game developers in order to stay ahead of the curve here? There are show notes at forum.heavyelement.io, and you can also leave us a comment because this is going to be on YouTube, or you can tweet at us. I'm at the Linux Gamer on Twitter, and Raven is Raven67854 on Twitter.